My youth romantic comedy is wrong, as I expected, alternatively known as my teen romantic comedy SNAFU, alternatively known as simply SNAFU, but most commonly referred to as OreGairu, the abbreviation of the original Japanese title, is one of my favorite stories of all time. And yes, with a title that long, this is an anime adapted from a light novel series, as you'd expect. There's no particular reason for my admiration for OreGairu other than the fact that, like many other of my favorite things, I was introduced to the story exactly when I needed it. If you aren't familiar with OreGairu, in summation, it's a story about a scorned loner, Hachiman Hikigaya, discovering who he is and what he really wants through interactions with his family, teachers, and peers. One peer in particular, Yukino Yukinoshida, has a profound effect on Hikigaya and vice versa as a result of their similar experiences and worldviews. Over the course of the narrative, we watch their relationship evolve from that of total strangers, to clubmates, to friends, and then eventually to, dude, stop, that's a spoiler, stop. Right. I guess that's my bad. However, it should be noted that events don't unfold as smoothly as I'm making them out to be, because Yukinoshida isn't the only one of his peers interested in Hikigaya. Yui Uegahama is one of Hikigaya's classmates, and although she's known him for longer than Yukinoshida, the two don't begin commonly interacting until he meets the latter. This love triangle is the heart of OreGairu, and the biggest reason why I felt this story would be a perfect way for me to discuss the topic of today's video: realism in narratives. A lot of people who've already seen this show believe it to be one of the most realistic things they've ever seen, and to that I laugh. Ha ha. Let's take a step back and look at this story's premise. A loner assists troubled classmates in solving their problems alongside two of his peers after his worried teacher forces him to join a club dedicated to selflessness. Now I ask, how many of you have ever found yourselves in this situation? No, legitimately. How many of you have ever been put into a position like this? The answer is no one, and if you said yes, you're a dirty liar and are going straight to hell. This show is filled with so many nonsensical absurdities, it's borderline cartoonish. Mono, if you think OreGairu is so unrealistic, then why are you talking about it in a video about realism? You're nitpicking. You're just nitpicking, and I, for one, am sick of seeing whiny content showing up on my feed. Get a life. Oh, and by the way, I'm just like Hikigaya, and I found myself in his position my entire life. So there. Okay. And to that, all I have to say is, don't burn yourself on the way down. Look, when I say OreGairu is unrealistic, I don't mean it's wholly unrealistic, but that when you look at its surface level, the plot, it's definitely anime. And considering anime is a medium built upon overexpression that doesn't correlate very well with actual realism, now does it? Okay, Mono, so if you're saying that just the surface level is unrealistic, then where does that leave the rest of it? A good story should make you think, right? That all comes from its deeper layers, so how realistic are OreGairu's? I am so glad you asked that, viewer number 282, because while the situations characters find themselves in are pretty cartoonish, the context behind those situations is scarily realistic. Let's take the opener for the anime's second season as an example. The gang finds themselves in a pinch when two of Hikigaya and Uegahama's classmates, Hayato Hayama and Kakeru Tobe, make a request. Basically, Tobe has a crush on a classmate within he and Hayama's friend group, Hina Ebina, and he wants the trio's help in confessing his feelings for her by the end of their class's Kyoto trip. What makes the situation tricky is that while Tobe is working towards a confession, Ebina and Hayama want to avoid that at all costs because they know something that major will drastically alter their group's dynamic. The two make this apparent to Hikigaya throughout the class trip, and after taking everyone into account, he reaches the conclusion that there's only one way he can exit the situation with all requests fulfilled. He confesses to Ebina before Tobe gets the chance. By doing this, Hikigaya makes it apparent to Tobe that Ebina isn't looking for a relationship at the moment, while saving him from a crippling rejection that'd change how he interacts with her and the rest of their group. It's a win-win situation, right? Somewhat. Although he did fulfill each request, what Hikigaya failed to take into account was how this confession affected him. Or rather, he did take that into account, but actively chose to ignore those consequences for the sake of getting results. While Ebina, Hayama, Uegahama, and Yukinoshida are aware Hikigaya's confession was just an act, the rest of his classmates aren't, including Tobe. As a result, Hikigaya seems even more detestable of an individual than once thought. This is not the first time he's taken this approach towards solving conflict, so his relationship with Yukinoshida and Uegahama becomes strained as a result. Hikigaya's self-deprecatory practices become a major point point of contention among the story's characters from this point forward. Everyone else wants him to change, yet he is firmly rooted in his own way of doing things. Now, as I said before, the plot during this section of the story is somewhat convoluted, making it fairly unrealistic. First, most schools do not have clubs dedicated to helping other students. Or, I guess they do, but it's not a club and called a therapist. Second, it's not normal for said students to approach the socially maladjusted for assistance in their romantic endeavors. What is realistic, though, is the subtext behind all of this, what's going on underneath the surface. The dilemma Hayama's group finds itself in, with one member wanting to confess to another, and the rest working to prevent that for the sake of maintaining the status quo, is a situation that can occur in any of our lives, regardless of which role you're playing. But Mono, I didn't have many friends in high school, and that's left me feeling pretty socially inept today. I can't really relate to people's social problems if I never had any meaningful social interactions myself. Well, that is what Hikigaya's perspective is for. Hachiman Hikigaya is a character that has been put through the ringer socially. The brutal rejection and isolation he endured from his peers up until this point has severely damaged his sense of self-worth, regardless of how unwilling Hikigaya is to admit it. That's why he's so comfortable with throwing himself under the bus to solve other people's problems. In his mind, he's so far past the point of social salvation, there's legitimately nothing left for him to lose by playing the villain. The only issue with this line of thinking is Hikigaya does have something to lose because, again, he has people in his life who truly care for him. What makes Hikigaya a compelling character to the audience is his relatability. I would not recommend OreGairu to just anyone because it's a narrative written to fulfill a specific purpose and appeal to a specific demographic. Hopefully, if you've already seen the anime, you've also read the light novels and are familiar with the afterword in the first volume. If not, what the fuck's wrong with you? Please get on that. During the afterword, in regards to youth, Watari, the series author, states, "I hated it. I wanted to go on a date with a high school girl in a uniform too. No, I still want to now. I wrote those feelings into this. I hope you enjoyed it." Watari's goal with OreGairu was to write a teenage romantic comedy more so rooted in realism than idealistic romance. And while he did have fun writing these crazy scenarios to keep us entertained, after all I've said, it should be clear that a more realistic portrayal of teenage romance was always the focus. The season 2 opener does a wonderful job of conveying this focus to the audience, but considering there's a single scene within the same season that accomplishes this much more effectively, I figured we'd take a look at that. This scene takes place shortly after the season's opening arc. The main trio's relationship is still tense after Hikigaya's confession, but regardless, they all still commit to fulfilling their club duties. Ishiki Iroha, a recurring underclassman new to this season, approaches the service club with a request to lose the upcoming student body president election she was unknowingly signed up for. Yuki Noshida and Yui Gahama believe the best way to exit the situation would be for Iroha to lose to a candidate blatantly superior to her. But Hikigaya dissents that take too much effort on their part, and it'd be much more effective if she was to lose via a vote of no confidence, resulting from a campaign speech delivered by a less than favorable representative. Him. Shocked by Hikigaya's unwillingness to shift his approach towards problem solving, Yuki Noshida admonishes that they've no need to work together, and thus both parties split, committing to their own methods. Yuki Noshida decides to run for the position herself, and Hikigaya simply opts to convince Iroha that being president isn't as bad as she believes. Once again, Hikigaya is all alone, but this time, things feel much different. An uneasiness washes over him as he attempts to sort through whatever it is he's feeling. And after a conversation with our favorite teacher, he commits to approaching Yuki Noshida and Yui Gahama with a request of his own. He wants something genuine. I think this idea of what's genuine is left fairly ambiguous because it changes from person to person. Within the context of the show and in regards to Hikigaya, I think genuine is him being able to share all of himself with another person free from any of the burdens and worries that comes from your standard relationship. He's never had that with anyone besides his sister, so it's a desire that's unique to his character and life experiences. That's his genuine. Oh, Mono, genuine this, genuine that. You keep saying genuine, but I have no clue what that means. That's entirely fair. Remember, OreGairu is a story written for a specific audience, so it's only to be expected some don't understand what any of these characters are talking about. After all, it's not typical for people to use words like genuine in this regard. When Hikigaya says he wants something genuine, what he really means is he's looking for his ideal relationship. As a matter of fact, all three of the main characters are looking for a relationship, regardless of whether or not it's ideal. With everyone pining for the same thing, it's only natural drama ensues, and from this point forward, really hits the fan. I think the most common criticism fledgling writers get is their work isn't realistic enough. I hate this. I hate this so much. Those who believe writers should root all of their work in what's considered realistic are painfully misguided because guess what? None of this is real? I made it all up, you stupid ape. Oh, okay. See, I thought he was being serious. Then there's the term realistic itself. What is realistic? Realistic is relative. For example, it's very realistic for me to get up from my chair, walk into the kitchen, and then pour myself a nice cold and crisp glass of water. Conversely, there are places on Earth where people actively choose to drink polluted water because anything clean is so far out of reach. Are you going to tell the aspiring novelist growing up in a broken third world country that her story about everyone everywhere having access to clean water is unrealistic? No. Cool, then check yourself, you daft motherfucker. The term people are actually looking for isn't realistic, but grounded. Because when a narrative is grounded, that means its writer did a fantastic job of clearly establishing the kind of logic the characters operate under. So that whenever one makes a decision, the audience has all the tools and information needed to understand why they made that choice. They don't need to agree, they just need to understand. Usually, when someone says writing isn't realistic, they do so because something doesn't make sense. And if that's the case, their criticism is still valid because it's reflective of a logical deficit within your narrative. However, still, this shouldn't be referred to as unrealism. If you want to say a story isn't grounded, go for it. An even better adjective to use would be illogical. But unrealistic? No. Again, the term realistic when used properly is entirely relative. And considering some of the most popular human stories are rooted in universes with foundational laws completely foreign to our own, realism becomes even less valuable than it already was. Always make the best decisions for your own writing. Stories are meant to be entertaining, after all. OreGairu is a perfect example of how you can root your narrative within logic that adheres to our own while still having fun with your work. Yeah, the plot's cartoonish and nonsensical, but that doesn't diminish its message in the least. Again, at its core, this is just a story about a loner coming to terms with who he is and what he wants through interactions with the people around him. It taught me that the first step towards bettering yourself and approaching your genuine is introspection. Being able to look deep inside yourself for who you are so that, in turn, you can understand what you want and what you truly need. For example, I want many things, but what I really need is to become truly comfortable with who I am. This changes from person to person, but regardless, your genuine is out there waiting to be found. And I can already see you depraved, horny ass nuts typing in the comments. No, when I say this, I do not mean that you need to go out there and find yourself a kawaii Japanese waifu, you loser. What you really need is to get some genuine bitches on your dick. But Mono, you don't have any bitches on your— Yes, I know! Thank you for reminding me, because I'd have no other way of knowing otherwise. Jesus Christ. Hey yo, is he still acting or should I be concerned? Hopefully this video is helpful in deciding what direction you'd like to take your writing. I think one of the hardest hurdles to overcome as a blossoming writer is this entire "that's not realistic" thing. I think the discussion as a whole is completely idiotic, but considering it's ongoing, I figured I'd throw in my 2 cents. With that being said, it was such a joy to talk about OreGairu like this. I absolutely adore this story, and if this video does well enough, I'm fully committing to reviewing the entire series in a similar fashion. The light novels should be fully translated by the end of this year, and we've got a very special Climax OVA on the horizon. So if you'd like to see that full breakdown actually happen, then speak with your actions. Like the video if you liked the video, and dislike it if you did not. Comment down below letting me know what's your stance on this entire realism debate, as well as leaving any general thoughts. The links to my social media can be found in the description below, including one to my Discord server where you can have an intimate one-on-one conversation with Mr. Cryptic himself. Please don't call yourself that. Okay, and be sure to subscribe to show your support for Decryption and the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care.